Venom 2099, full story explained. The more things change. In the distant future, Miguel OHara is Spider-Man 2099. This is the story of his greatest enemy, Venom 2099. 1. Creating a killer. In the old days, it was Peter Parker versus Eddie Brock, his jealous co-worker. Eddie's pretty much a Boy Scout compared to Kron Stone, the Venom of 2099. The first time we see the guy, he's portrayed as a crazed gunman shooting up a local zoo. From the beginning, Kron's mind was clearly broken. He couldn't help but fixate on the scenes of happy families and smiling children playing out around him. Kron was hell-bent on destroying the lies he was seeing. One such idyllic family Kron witnessed enjoying the park that day was Jake Gallows, a private security officer who was taking a lovely afternoon stroll with his mother, brother, and sister-in-law. Out of nowhere, Kron leapt at the family, immediately roasting Jake's brother with microwaves and disintegrating the man right in front of his loved ones. Jake jumped into action, but Kron and his friends were waiting for him, so they were able to use their microwave pistols to shred Jake's legs. Crippled and helpless, Jake was forced to watch as Kron moved on to his next victims, smiling grimly as he taunted, "Time to go to Valhalla, Mom." Kron shot the woman in cold blood as Jake screamed and protested from the floor just a few yards away. From there, almost without any consideration for what he'd done, Kron moved on to Jake's sister-in-law, the woman he had already made a widow moments earlier. "You're pretending to be a happy family," Kron mumbled as he lurched forwards. "I know what families do, behind closed doors. Cruel things. It can't last. I must be merciful and kill you before you were disillusioned." Jake crawled forwards as Kron monologued, praying he could reach his only remaining family member in time, but it was not to be. Without another word, Kron stepped back and raised his pistol towards her chest, pulling the trigger and ending her life without a hint of remorse. Jake lost all control seeing this, and as Kron and his gang of equally troubled cohorts beat Jake on the ground, the man yelled, Kill me too!" Kron stooped to look at the man face to face. "No, my work is done. You're no longer a family. I have nothing personal against you, officer." He said this and walked off into Nueva York to find his next victims. What Kron didn't know was that Jake Gallows would survive and dedicate his life to becoming the Punisher 2099. Kron's madness gave birth to the re-emergence of a Marvel legend and brought another man so low as to pick up the mantle Frank Castle left behind. Of course, the Punisher of the future wouldn't rest until the monster who killed his family was put in the dirt. And eventually, he got his wish. Jake found Kron at a local amusement park, threatening to switch off the anti-gravity ride as dozens of children floated gleefully hundreds of feet over the ground. Jake was able to stop the lunatic, but was forced to choose between ending the man and saving a falling child. Jake caught the kid, but Kron was able to slip through his fingers again. But during the next meeting, Kron's luck ran out. Jake cornered the man in an alleyway, using futuristic camouflage technology to hide in plain sight until his target had nowhere to go. Jake didn't pull any punches once he finally had the serial killer in his clutches. One well-aimed strike of the butt of his rifle sent Kron hurtling to the street as Jake deactivated his stealth tech. But Kron had tricks of his own up his sleeve. High-tech armor capable of repelling objects at high velocities was able to ricochet the Punisher's bullet as they whizzed towards the killer. "Look, man, it's not my fault I kill families," Kron pleaded with Jake. "Mine neglected me. They used me as a fashion accessory, 'cause it was trendy to have kids." But the Punisher didn't care for excuses. Slowly advancing on Kron, Jake whipped out an ancient weapon that was hardly ever used in the year 2099. "A knife?" the killer whispered. "Your armor only protects you from fast-moving objects. Remember?" Jake grimaced as he walked up to Kron, their faces only inches apart. With that, Jake took his knife and slipped it slowly into the ribcage of the madman. Kron let out a haggard wheeze and slid down the wall into the rainy street below. The Punisher had finally ended the man who killed his family. Or so he thought. And if you think we should make more videos like this, let us know in the comments. 2. My Other's Keeper. Just like Peter Parker, Miguel OHara's love life has never been easy. The main women in his life are Xena Kwan, who he's dated the longest, and Dana D'Angelo, who originally dated his younger brother, Gabriel. But that was before Miguel and Dana cheated on their partners with each other. What does Miguel's love life have to do with Venom 2099? Well, as we know, what Venom loves is hitting Spider-Man where it hurts. It all started when Tyler Stone, Kron's, and secretly Miguel's father and a bigwig president of one of the biggest companies in town was hospitalized after an attack at his home. News travels fast in a city like Nueva York, and before long, some street-level thugs were gossiping about how to take advantage of this power vacuum. Little did they realize they were only the messengers for a much greater evil to make his move. Soon, black sludge began seeping from a nearby drain pipe, and something viscous began molding itself into a figure of a person right before the gangsters' eyes. One of them took a haphazard swing at the substance, only to be engulfed instantly by the slick black substance. The man began screaming for help as the acidic ooze began eating away at his body. Within moments, the only evidence of the man's existence was a pile of bones on the floor. With that, Venom revealed itself in its true form to a straggler and opened its terrible maw as it went in for seconds. Venom then snuck into the hospital through a water duct, sneaking its way closer and closer to its high-profile prey. When Venom arrived at Tyler Stone's sickbed, Miguel was checking in on Dana, who was close with Tyler at the time. Suddenly, Miguel heard a rasping, evil voice speak from behind him. "As I live and breathe, or whatever it is I do, Miguel OHara and Tyler Stone, together again. I get to kill you at the same time. How awfully considerate. To show my appreciation, I'll kill you slowly." Venom, in its full symbiote form, stood in the doorway dripping with mucus and acid, plodding closer and closer to Miguel, Dana, and the unconscious Tyler. But this version of Venom might look a little different than the modern Venom. For one, an almost bone-like mask covers the face of Venom 2099, protruding out across his body in web-like highlights similar to Venom's original costume. This futuristic Venom is less costume and more creature, snarling and striking out at any and all it finds before it. Perhaps this is due to Stone's influence on the symbiote, or the symbiote's influence on Kron. Either way, Venom 2099 also has a few extra tricks up its sleeve that Eddie Brock's Venom never manifested. For one, this Venom can fully transmute itself into a gooey, gelatinous mass to travel through pipes or up walls. This ability is similar to the way Hydro Man or Sandman are able to fully deconstruct themselves at will. Second, and far more dangerous, is Venom 29's acidic properties, which Miguel first encounters when he attempts to land a punch on the terrifying symbiote and finds himself with a fistful of acrid goo that eats away at his skin and flesh. Miguel heads for the hills at this, racing off to change into his suit, while Venom slowly rises his shape-shifting fist over Tyler Stone's soon-to-be deathbed. But when a web slings out and catches one of the limbs of the monster, Venom's eyes alight in rage when he sees who's come to end his killing spree. The creature whispers, I know you." Venom leaps at Spidey, intent on destroying his oldest and most hated enemy in this new form. It seems that even though decades have passed since the symbiote's last battle with Spider-Man, the sight of Miguel in full costume triggers the symbiote so uncontrollably that Venom can't help but turn all of its attention to this new web-crawling wannabe. It screams, "Players have changed, but the game's the same. Who wins, who dies, and this time, the winner will be Venom." Spidey and Venom crash out the window at the force of Venom's lunge and begin careening hundreds of feet down to the street below. Maneuvering himself and deciding in that moment that this was no time for mercy, Miguel puts all he has into a few blows and manages to slip out from Venom's grasp. Breaking his fall with his trusty webs, Miguel manages to save himself from certain death. Venom isn't so lucky. The creature falls heavily to the concrete below and splats on the ground in sickening fashion. But as soon as the pile of goop hits the ground, it starts reforming as if it had taken no impact at all. Within moments, Venom is back on his feet and barreling down on Miguel with renewed vigor. "That's it," the monster laughs. "After all this time, all this hate, is that the best you can do?" The two take off across the city, Miguel using his flight to stay just out of reach of Venom's claws. But soon, the symbiote changes tact. Just as Stone was never afraid of putting innocents in harm's way, neither is this version of Venom. Diving through the glass window and into an office building, Venom starts a rampage that sees numerous civilians burnt to cinders by their acidic breath and touch. Miguel, forced to intervene and stop the slaughter, dives in after Venom and gives the alien sludge what it wants: a fight. Things don't go well for Miguel, who quickly finds himself thrown out the window and only barely manages to cushion his fall with a webbing balloon. Venom, on the other hand, tears through the legions of troopers sent to pacify the beast, at one point even stealing 2 rifles and firing them back at the troopers with a look of horrific glee plastered on his snarling face. When Miguel finally returns home later that evening, he finds none other than the monster he just thought he'd escaped waiting for him, with both Dana and Xena held tight in their clutches. "You've got 5 seconds to decide," Venom smiles at Miguel, "or I'll just kill them both." "Xena!" Miguel yells at the sight of 2 of his closest friends in peril. Venom takes this as his choice and replies, "Xena lives? All right, then Dana dies." Instantly, Venom starts pumping acid through the tendril that holds Dana, causing sickening green smoke to curl up from her agonized form. "No!" Miguel screamed, diving at Venom and slicing the arm that held Dana tight. In the heat of the moment, the furthest thing from Miguel's mind was keeping his secret identity under wraps. But luckily for him, Venom chalked Miguel's surprising strength and speed up to some sort of concealed weapon. Escaping with Dana, Miguel tells her to throw herself down an emergency exit chute to reach ground level. Miguel rushes back to the room where Venom still holds Xena captive, but finds it empty. Meanwhile, Dana reaches the bottom floor and finds Venom waiting to capture her once more. This in particular is a low point for Miguel, who usually can rely on his genius-level intellect to outsmart his opponents. Never did Miguel think Venom not only knew about the emergency escape route, but would openly opt out of further confrontation in order to regain a hostage. Venom, in this moment, completely outsmarts Spidey and once again gets his hands on both Xena and Dana. Instantly, Venom takes to the streets with the 2 women, forcing them to drive while the symbiotic space goo keeps a lookout for anything with webs. Eventually, the local authorities attempt to curb Venom's stolen joyride, but the creature proves that the police are simply no match for his strength, speed, and versatility. But when Venom's antics cause the car to swerve off the road, it's once again Miguel's quick web work that keep both Xena and Dana from meeting crushingly quick ends. Even as Spidey goes to check on them though, Venom appears once more to tear him a new one, throwing Miguel to the floor and dashing off with the 2 women again. The police corner Venom before Miguel can catch up, and Dana surprises the monster by throwing a punch to the face, allowing Xena to duck out and away from Venom's clutches. With his attention fully on Dana, Venom doesn't see as the police firing squad sets up to take him out. Bullets scream from the barrels of futuristic guns as the police think they have a line of sight on the symbiotic serial killer. Venom is caught off guard and peppered with rounds, but even after the firing stops, he stands tall and smiles at his would-be executors. "Your shots went through me," the monster taunted. "But don't worry. Something behind me stopped them for you." Slyly, Venom melted into his liquid form and slipped off the rooftop, revealing Dana's brutalized body laying behind him, having taken the brunt of the gunfire after it sailed harmlessly through Venom's symbiotic form. "No!" Miguel and Xena whisper in unison as they see the body. Miguel dives for Dana, hoping and praying that his eyes might be deceiving him. But when he reaches her, he sees that her injuries are too severe for any hope of survival. "You know?" Dana manages in a weak whisper once she sees Miguel's mask looking down at her. "I was so glad when you shaved like I asked years ago. 'Cause it tickled when we kissed." With that, Dana's head rolled back and her eyes closed for the last time. Miguel sat on that rooftop in silence for a long time, cradling her body in his arms. And, just like Peter Parker on the night Gwen Stacy died, Miguel swore in that moment. He's dead. Wherever he is, he's dead. But Venom was in the wind. Even in this age of amazing technology, how could Spider-Man start to track a shapeless beast through the confusing streets of the city? Well, the answer came to Miguel while he was testing the sample of symbiote left over from when he sliced Venom's arm off. Overcome with anger, Miguel yells, "I want it dead!" at the specimen in the tank, which causes the symbiote to wriggle and writhe in pain. "Huh?" Miguel noticed. It flinched. Interesting. We've tried all manner of stimulus, radiation, got no reaction at all. Maybe sound bothers it. It's far-fetched, but... Meanwhile, far across town, Venom decides it's finally time to make his move. But before he can, something piercing falls on Venom's ears, causing the symbiote such intense pain that it can't help but hold its ears and plummet to the ground. "What are you doing to us?" Venom screeches as it falls, smashing its head on the concrete. Instantly, Miguel flies out of the woodwork and takes advantage of Venom's paralyzed state, cracking the creature's skull with one huge haymaker, then another across the jaw, then another pounding down on the monster's ribs. Eventually, Venom, unable to shapeshift or escape, is left at Miguel's mercy. But just as Spidey raises his fist for the final blow, the symbiote begins peeling off the skin and bone beneath it.
I give up.
Venom manages as it melts.
Just turn the sound off. It's tearing us apart. Please.
At this moment, Miguel realizes that this monster is not just sludge, but it's piloted by a man.
Mercy. Please.
The man inside the sludge begs, which gives Miguel momentary pause.
You're a monster,
Spidey tells the man emerging from the alien suit. Suddenly, gripped by a wave of anger and hatred, Miguel drives the man to the ground once more, looking ready to strangle him.
You don't deserve to live. You...
And then, as the symbiote falls from the man's face, Miguel sees who it is he's been fighting.
You?
Spidey says in shock. It was none other than Kron Stone looking up at Miguel, a man long thought to have been killed by the Punisher. Days later, Miguel came face to face once more with Kron Stone.
Pretty lively for a dead man,
Miguel joked as he checked Kron's chart, but it was clear that captivity left Kron in no mood to help answer any questions. Thus, Miguel offered him a bargain. You and me, Kron. Do you think you can take me without your Venom symbiote? You win. You walk. I win. You become the Answer Man. Deal? Miguel asked as Kron's containment unit opened.
Deal!
The savage man answered readily as he leapt at Miguel, but Spidey was too quick, smacking Kron out of the air with one punch and sending him barreling across the room. Kron thought he was going up against a paper-pushing scientist and had no idea Miguel was the same man he'd been fighting across rooftops while amped up on Venom juice. Truthfully, Kron never stood a chance. After an intense and quite un-Spider-Man-like beating at Miguel's hands, Kron told his side of the story. As it turned out, when Jake Gallows left Kron bleeding out with a knife wound in the abdomen, the man floated through the Nueva York sewers barely conscious. Down there, in the dark, Kron brushed against something slimy, something warm, something alive. The symbiote known as Venom was hibernating for decades down below the streets of Nueva York. It was mutating in a chrysalis-like form and finally found an acceptable host to bond with. From there, Venom 2099 was born. Kron took advantage of his second lease on life to find a street bum, killed the man, and plant his own ID on the victim, creating the story that Kron Stone died that night at the hands of the Punisher. And by using your hands, you can check out our video on Deadpool 2099.